Oh, Krishna.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Let's start reading session. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Gnanatimirandasya Dhananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swaparantikam. Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yutapata Kamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrijatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Harijana Sahitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakanvitamscha हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये पंचाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानं पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमां विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी निति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्याय देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Okay, Hari Bol. So today we read the chapter 15, and it is explaining about Lord Krishna's daily activities. From the Vedic mantras, we learn that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has nothing to do, natasya karyam kranam chavityate. If the Supreme Lord has nothing to do, then how can we speak of the activities of the Supreme Lord? From the previous chapter, it is clear that no one can act in the way that Lord Krishna does, but should clearly note this fact, that activities of the Lord should be followed, but they cannot be imitated. For example, Krishna's ideal life as a householder can be followed, but if one wants to imitate Krishna by expanding into many forms, that is not possible. We should always remember, therefore, that Lord Krishna, although playing the part of a human being, nevertheless simultaneously maintains the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We can follow Lord Krishna's dealing with his wives as an ordinary human being, but his dealing with more than 16,000 wives at one time cannot be imitated. The conclusion is that to become ideal householders, we should follow in the footsteps of Lord Krishna, as he displayed his daily activities, but we cannot imitate him at any stage of our life. Lord Krishna used to lie down with his 16,000 wives, but also he would rise up from the bed very early in the morning, 3 hours before sunrise. By nature's arrangement, the crowing of the cocks warns of the Brahma Muhurta hour. There is no need of alarm clocks. As soon as the cocks crow, early in the morning, it is to be understood that it is the time to rise from bed. Hearing the sound, Krishna would get up from bed, but his rising early was not very much to the liking of his wives. The wives of Krishna were so much attached to him that they would lie in the bed embracing him, but as soon as the cocks crowed, Krishna's wives would be very sorry and would immediately condemn the crowing. In the garden within the compound of each palace there was parijata flowers. Parijata flower is not an artificial flower. We remember that Krishna brought the parijata flower trees from heaven and implanted them in all his palaces. Okay, Hare Krishna. Anyone can continue. The next page. Ribo.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, from where should I start?
Here, early in the morning.
Okay, thank you. Early in the morning, a mild breeze would carry the aroma of the Parijata flower, and Krishna would smell it just after rising from bed. Due to this aroma, the honey bees would begin their humming vibration, and the birds also would begin their sweet chirping sounds. Altogether, it would sound like the singing of professional chanters engaged in offering prayers to Krishna. Although Srimati Rukmini Devi, the first queen of Lord Krishna, knew that Brahma Muhurta is the most auspicious time in the entire day, she would feel disgusted at the appearance of Brahma Muhurta because she was not very happy to have Krishna leave her side in bed. Despite Srimati Rukmini Devi's disgust, Lord Krishna would immediately get up from bed exactly on the appearance of Brahma Muhurta. An ideal householder should learn from the behavior of Lord Krishna how to rise early in the morning, however comfortably he may be lying in bed embraced by his wife. After rising from bed, Lord Krishna would wash his mouth, hands, hands, and feet, and would immediately sit down and meditate on himself. This does not mean, however, that we should also sit down and meditate on ourselves. We have to meditate upon Krishna, Radha Krishna. That is real meditation. Krishna, Krishna is Krishna himself. Therefore, he was teaching us that Brahma Muhurta should be utilized for meditation on Radha Krishna. By doing so, Krishna would feel very much satisfied, and similarly, we will also feel transcendently pleased and satisfied if we utilize the Brahma Muhurta period to meditate on Radha and Krishna, and if we think of how Sri Rukmini Devi and Krishna acted as ideal householders to teach the whole human society to rise early in the morning and immediately engage in Krishna consciousness. There is no difference between meditating on the eternal forms of Radha Krishna and chanting the Maha Mantra Hare Krishna. As for Krishna's meditation, he had no alternative but to meditate on himself. The object of meditation is Brahman, Paramatma, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but Krishna himself is all three. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan, the localized Paramatma is his plenary partial expansion, and the all-pervading Brahman effulgence is the personal rays of his transcendental body. Therefore, Krishna is always one, and for him there is no differentiation. There is the difference between an ordinary living being and Krishna. For an ordinary living being, there are many distinctions. An ordinary living being is different from his body, and he is different from the other species of living entities. A human being is different from other human beings, and different from the animals. Even his even in his own body, there are different bodily limbs. We have our hands and legs, but our hands are different from our legs. The hand cannot act like the leg, nor can the leg act like the hand. The eyes cannot hear like the ears, nor can the ears see like the eyes. All these all these differences are technically called swa swajit swajitya ujitya. Ribol, anyone can continue next.
Hare Krishna. Ero Prabhu or Pranjal Prabhu, can you read? Next one.
A bodily limitation whereby one part of the body cannot act as another part of is totally absent in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is no difference between his body and himself. He is completely spiritual, and therefore there is no material difference between his body and his soul. Similarly, he is not different from his millions of incarnation in plenary expansions. Baldeva is the first expansion of Krishna. From Baldeva expansion, Sankarsana, Vasudev, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. From Sankarsana, there is there is again expansion of Narayan, and from Narayan there is again expansion of there is a second quadruple expansion of Sankarsana, Vasudev, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. Similarly, there are innumerable expansion of Krishna, but all of them are one. Krishna has many incarnations such as Lord Narasimha, Lord Boar, Lord Fish, Lord Tortoise, But there is no difference between Krishna's originally 200 form like that of a human being and these incarnation of gigantic animal forms. Nor there are any difference between the action of one part of his body and that of another. His hands can act as his legs, his eyes can act as his ears, and his nose or his nose can act as another part of his body. Krishna smelling, eating, hearing are all the same. We are limited living entities. We have to use a particular part of our body for a particular purpose. But there is no such distinction for Krishna. In Brahma Samhita it is said, Agni Yasya Sakalarendriya Vritti. He can perform the activities of one limb with any other limb. So by analytical study of Krishna and his person, it is concluded that he is complete whole. When he meditates, therefore, he meditates on himself. The self-meditation by ordinary man is designated in Sanskrit as Soham, is simply imitation. Krishna may meditate on himself because he is complete whole, but we cannot imitate him and meditate on ourselves. Our body is a designation. Krishna's body is not a designation. Krishna's body is also Krishna. There is no existence of anything foreign in Krishna. Whatever there is in Krishna, there is also Krishna. Therefore, he is therefore supreme, indestructible, complete existence, or supreme truth. Krishna's existence is not relative existence. Everything else but Krishna is a relative truth. But Krishna is the supreme absolute truth. Krishna does not depend for anything but himself for his existence. Our existence is relative. For example, only when there is light of the sun, the moon, or electricity we are able to see. Our seeing is therefore relative, and the light of the sun and the moon and electricity is also relative. They are called illuminating only because we see them as such. Dependence and relativity does not exist in Krishna. His activities are not dependent on anyone else's appreciation, nor does it depend on anyone else's help. He is beyond the existence of limited space and time and space, and because he is transcendental to time and space, he cannot be covered by illusion of mind. But whose activities are limited. In the Vedic literature, we find that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has multi-potencies. Since all such potencies are an emanation from him, there is no difference between him and his potencies. Certain philosophers say, however, that when Krishna comes to accept a material body, but even if it is accepted that when he has come to the material world, he accepts a material body, it should be concluded also that because material energy is no different from him, his body does not act materially. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said, therefore, that he appears by his own internal potency, Atma Maya. Krishna is also called Supreme Brahman because he is the cause of creation, the cause of maintenance, and the cause of dissolution. Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu, and Lord Shiva are different expansion of these material qualities. All these material qualities can act upon conditional souls, but there is no such action-reaction upon Krishna because these qualities are simultaneously one and different from him. Krishna himself is Sacinandana Vigraha, the eternal form of bliss and knowledge, and because of his inconceivable greatness, he is also called the Supreme Brahman. His meditation on the Brahman and the Paramatma or Bhagavan is on himself only, and not on anything else beyond himself. This meditation cannot be imitated by ordinary living entity. After his meditation, the Lord would regularly bathe early in the morning with clear sanctified water, and then he would change into fresh clothing, cover himself with a wrapper, and then engage himself in his religious functions. Out of his many religious duties, the first was to offer obligations onto the sacrificial fire and silently chant the Gayatri Mantra. Krishna, as ideal householder, executed all the religious function of a householder without deviation. When the sunrise became visible, the Lord would offer specific prayers to the sun god and the sun god and other demigods mentioned in the Vedic scriptures as described as different limbs of the body of Krishna, and it is the duty of a householder to offer respects to the demigod and the great sages, as well as the forefathers. As it is said in the Bhagavad Gita that Lord has no specific duty to perform in this world, yet he acts like he is an ordinary man living in the ideal life and in the material world. In accordance with the Vedic ritualistic principle, the Lord would offer respect to the demigods, the regulative principle by which the demigods and the forefather are worshipped is called Tarpana, which means pleasing. One's forefather might have to take a body on another planet, but by performance of these Tarpana system, they become very happy wherever they may be. It is the duty of a householder to make his family members happy, and by following Tarpana system, he can make his forefathers happy also. As a perfect exemplary householder, Lord Krishna followed the Tarpana system and offered the respective obeisances to the elderly superior members of his family. His next duty was to give cows in charity and to the Brahmanas. Lord Krishna used to give as many as 13,084 cows. Each of them was decorated with a silken cover and pearl necklace. Their horns were covered with gold plating and their hoofs were silver plated. All of them were full of milk due to having their first-born calves with them, and they were very tame and peaceful. When the cows were given in charity to the Brahmanas, the Brahmanas also were given nice silken garments, and was each was given deer skin and sufficient quantity of seeds and grains. The Lord, generally known as Go Brahmana Hitaya, which means that his first duty is to see the welfare of cows and Brahmanas. Thus, he used to give the cows in charity to the Brahmanas with opulent decorations and paraphernalia. Then, the wishing for the welfare of all living entities, he would touch auspicious articles such as milk, fire, honey, and ghee, gold, jewels, and fire. Although the Lord is by nature very beautiful due to the perfect figure of his transcendental body, still he would dress himself in a yellow garments and put on the necklace of Austoba jewels. He would wear flower garlands and smear his body with the pulp of sandalwood and decorate himself with other similar cosmetics and ornaments. It is said that the ornaments themselves are beautiful upon being placed on the transcendental body of Lord. After decorating himself in this way, the Lord would then look at a marble statues of cow and calf and visit the temples of God and demigods like Lord Shiva. There were many Brahmanas who would come daily to see Supreme Lord before taking their breakfast, and they were anxious to see him, and he welcomed them. His next duty was to please all kinds of men belonging to different castes, both in the city and within the palace compound. He made them happy by fulfilling their different desires, and when the Lord saw them happy, he also became very much pleased. Fog garlands, betel nut, sandalwood, pulp, and other fragrant cosmetic articles which are offered to the Lord would be distributed by him, first to the Brahmana and the elderly members of the family, then to the queens, then to the ministers, and if there was still some balance, he would utilize for his own personal use. By the time Lord finished all these daily duties and activities, his charioteer Dharka would come with his wonderful chariot and used to stand before the Lord and with folded hands, intimating that the chariot was ready, and the Lord would come out of the palace to travel. Then the Lord, accompanied by Uddhava and Satyaki, would ride on the chariot just as sun god ride on his chariot in the morning, appearing with his blazing rays on the surface of the world. When the Lord was about to leave the palaces, all the queens would look at him with feminine gestures. The Lord would respond to their greetings with smile, attracting their hearts so much so that they would feel intense separation from the Lord. Then the Lord would go to the assembly house known as Sudharma. It may be remembered that Sudharma assembly house was taken away from the heavenly planet and was reestablished in the city of Dwarka. The specific significance of the assembly house was that anyone who entered it would be freed from all six kinds of material pains, namely hunger, thirst, lamentation, illusion, old age, and death. These are the webs of material existence, and as long as one remained in that assembly house of Sudharma, he would not be infected by six material webs. The Lord would say goodbye in all 16,000 palaces, then then he would come one by one and enter the Sudharma assembly house in procession with other members of the Yadu dynasty. After entering the assembly house, he used to sit on the exalted royal throne and would be seen to emanate the glaring rays of transcendental effulgence. effulgence. In the midst of all great heroes and Yadu dynasties of the Yadu dynasty, Krishna assembled the full moon in the sky, surrounded by multi-luminaries. In the assembly house, there are professional jokers, dancers, musicians, and ballet girls. And as soon as the Lord sat on his throne, they would begin their respective functions in order to please the Lord and put him in a happy mood. First of all, the jokers would talk in such a way that the Lord and his associates would enjoy their humors, which would refresh their morning mood. The dramatic actors would then play their parts, and the dancing ballet girls would separately display their artistic movements. All these functions would be accompanied by beating the mridanga drums and the sound of veena and flutes and bells, followed by the sound of pakhwaj, another type of drum. Along with these musical vibrations, the auspicious sound of conch shell would also be added. The professional singers called the sutas and the Magadhas would sing and others would perform their dancing art. In this way, the devotees would also offer their prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sometimes the learned Brahmanas were personally present in that assembly would chant Vedic hymns to and explain them to the audience to their best knowledge. And sometimes some of them would recite the old historical accounts of activities of the prominent kings. The Lord, accompanied by his associate, would be very much pleased to hear them. Once upon a time, a person arrived at the gateway of the assembly house who was unknown to all of the members of the assembly. And with permission of Lord Krishna, he was admitted into the assembly hall by the doorkeeper. The doorkeeper was ordered to present him before the Lord, and the man appeared and offered his respectful obeisances to the Lord with folded hands. It had happened that when the king Jarasandh conquered all other kingdoms, many kings did not bow their head before Jarasandh, and as a result, all of them, numbering 20,000, were arrested and made prisoners. The man who brought himself before the Lord Krishna by the doorkeeper was a representative messenger from all these imprisoned kings. Being duly presented before the Lord, the man began to explain the actual situation as follows. My dear Lord, you are the eternal form, transcendental bliss and knowledge. As such, you are beyond the reach of mental speculation or vocal description of any materialistic man within this world. A slight portion of your glories can be known by the person who has fully surrendered onto your lotus feet. And by your grace only such person can become free from all kinds of material anxieties. My dear Lord, I am not one of these surrender souls. I am within the duality and illusion of this material existence, and I have therefore come to take shelter of your lotus feet, and I am afraid of the cycle of birth and death. My dear Lord, I think that there are many living entities like me who are eternally entangled in the fruitive activities and their resultant reactions. They are never inclined to follow your instructions, by the performance of devotional service. Although it is pleasing to the heart and most auspicious for one's existence, on the contrary, they are they are against the path of Krishna conscious life, and they are wandering within the three worlds, with the three worlds impelled by the illusionary energy of material existence. My dear Lord, who can estimate your mercy and your powerful activities? You are present always as insurmountable force of eternal time, engaged in baffling infatigable desires of materialists who are thus repeatedly becoming confused and frustrated. I therefore offer my respective full obeisances unto you and in your form of eternal time. My dear Lord, you are the proprietor of all worlds, and you have incarnated yourself along with your plenary expansion, Lord Brahma, Lord Balrama. It is said that your appearance in this incarnation is for the purpose of protecting the faithful and destroying the miscreants. Under these circumstances, how it is possible that miscreants like Jerasan can put us into such deplorable conditions of life against your authority? We are puzzled at the situation and cannot understand how it is possible. It may be that Jerasan has been deputed to give us such trouble because of our past misdeeds. But we have heard from your revealed scriptures that anyone who surrenders onto your lotus feet immediately becomes immune to the reaction of sinful life. I therefore have deputed by all the imprisoned kings to wholeheartedly offer ourselves onto your lotus shelter, and we hope that your lordship will now give us full protection. We have now come to the real conclusion of our life. Our kingly position are nothing but the reward of our past pious activities, just as our suffering imprisonment by Jarasandha is a result of our past impious activities. We realize that now the resultant action of both pious and impious activities are temporary, and that we can never be happy in this conditioned life. This material body is awarded to us by the modes of material nature. On account of this, we are full of anxieties. The material condition of life simply involves bearing the burden of this dead body. As a result of fruitive activities, we have thus been subjected to the being being beast of burden. For these bodies are being forced by conditional life. We have given up the pleasing life of Krishna consciousness. Now we realize that we are the most foolish persons. We have been entangled in the network of material reaction due to our ignorance. We are therefore come to your shelter, to your lotus feet, which can immediately eradicate the result of fruitive actions and thus free us from the contamination from material pains and pleasure. Dear Lord, because we are now surrendered souls onto your lotus feet, you can give us relief from entrapment of fruitive actions made possible by the form of Jarasandha. Dear Lord, it is known that to you that Jarasandha possesses the power of 10,000 elephants. With this power, he has imprisoned us, just as lion hypnotizes flock of sheep. My dear Lord, you have already fought with Jarasandha 18 times consecutively, out of which you have defeated him 17 times by surpassing his extraordinary powerful position. But your 18th, but in your 18th fight, you exhibited your human behavior. Thus, it appeared that you were defeated. My dear Lord, you know very well that we know very well that Jarasan cannot defeat you at any time because your power, strength, resources, and authority are all unlimited. No one can equal you or surpass you. The appearance of defeat by Jarasandha in the 18th engagement is nothing but an exhibition of human behavior. Unfortunately, foolish Jarasandha cannot understand your tricks, and he has since then become puffed up over his material power and prestige. Specifically, he has arrested us and imprisoned us, knowing fully that as your devotees, we are subordinate to your sovereignty. Now I have explained you the awful position, and your lordship can consider and do whatever you like. As a messenger of your lord, As a messenger and the representative of all those imprisoned kings, I have submitted my words before your lordship and presented our prayers to you. All kings were very anxious to see you, so that they can all personally surrender at your lord's feet. My dear Lord, be merciful upon them and act for their good fortune. At the very moment the messenger of imprisoned kings was presently presenting his appeal before the Lord, the great sage Narada also arrived. Because he was a great saint, his hair was dazzling like gold. When he entered the assembly house, it appeared that the sun was personally present in the midst of the assembly. Thus, Lord Krishna is worshipable master even of Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva's. Yet, as soon as he saw that the sage Narada has arrived, he immediately stood up along with his minister and secretaries to receive the great sage and offer his respectful obeisances by bowing his hand. The great sage Narada took a comfortable seat, and Krishna worshipped him with all paraphernalia as required for the regular reception of a saintly person. While he was trying to satisfy Naraji, Lord Krishna spoke the following words in a sweet and natural voice. My dear great sage, among the demigods, I think that now everything is well within the three worlds. You are perfectly eligible to travel everywhere in the space, upper, middle, or lower planetary systems of this universe. Fortunately, when we meet you, we can very easily take information from your holiness of all the news of the three worlds within this cosmic manifestation of the Supreme Lord. There is nothing concealed from your knowledge. You know everything, and so I wish to question you. Are the Pandavas doing well? And what is the present plan of King Yudhishthira? Will you kindly let me know what they want to do at the present? Great Narad, the great sage Narad spoke as follows. My dear Lord, you have spoken about the cosmic manifestation created by the Supreme Lord, but I know that you are all-pervading creator. Your energies are so extensive, inconceivable, and that even powerful personalities like Brahma of the Lord of this particular universe cannot measure your inconceivable power. My dear Lord, you are present as the Supreme Soul in everyone's heart by your inconceivable potency, exactly like the fire which is present in everyone, but no one can see it directly. In the condition life, every living entity within this jurisdiction of three modes of material nature, as such, they are enabled to see your presence everywhere with their material eyes. But by your grace, however, I can see many times. I have seen many times the action of your inconceivable potencies. And therefore, when you ask me for the news of Pandavas, which is not at all unknown to you, I am not surprised that your inquiry, my dear Lord. By your inconceivable potencies, you can create the cosmic manifestation, maintain it again, and dissolve it. It is by dint of your inconceivable potency only that this material world, although a shadow of representation of the spiritual world, appears to be factual. No one can understand what you plan to do in the future. Your transcendental position is always inconceivable to everyone. As far as I am concerned, I can simply offer my respectful obeisances unto you again and again. In in the bodily concept of knowledge, everyone is driven by material desires, and thus everyone develops a new material body, one after another in the cycle of birth and death. Being absorbed in such a concept of existence, one does not know how to get out of this engagement of material body. Out of your causeless mercy, my dear Lord, you descend to exhibit your different transcendental pastime, which are illuminating and full of glory. Therefore, there is therefore I have no alternative but to offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Dear Lord, you are the supreme Parabrahman, and your pastimes are as an ordinary human are another tactical resource, exactly like a play on the stage which the actor plays different parts of his own identity. You have inquired about your cousins, the Pandavas, in the role of their well-wisher. Therefore, I shall let you know about their intentions. Now, please hear me. First of all, May I inform you that the King Yudhishthira has all material opulences which are possible to achieve in the highest planetary system Brahmaloka. He has no material uh, material opulence for which to aspire, and yet he wants to perform Rajasuya sacrifices only to get your association and please you. Narada informed Lord Krishna King Yudhishthira is so opulent that he has attained all opulences of Brahmaloka even on this earthly planet. He is full satisfied and he does not need anything more. He is full in everything, but now he wants to worship you in order to achieve your causeless mercy. And I beg to request you to fulfill his desires. My dear Lord, in his great sacrificial performances, the king is my king. By King Yudhishthira, there will be an assembly of all demigods and all the famous kings of the world. My dear Lord, you are the supreme Brahman, personality of Godhead, one who engages in your devotional service by the prescribed methods of hearing, chanting, and remembering certainly becomes purified from the contamination of modes of material nature. What to speak of those who have the opportunity to see you and touch you directly? My dear Lord, you are the symbol of everything auspicious. Your transcendental name and fame have spread all over the universe, including the higher, middle, lower, and lower planetary systems. The transcendental water which washes your lotus feet is known in the higher planetary system as Mandakini, in the lower Bhogavati, and in this earthly planet system as the Ganga. Their sacred transcendental transcendental water flows throughout the entire universe, purifying whatever it flows. Just before the great sage Narada arrived in the Sudama assembly of House of Dwarka, Lord Krishna and his members and secretaries had been considering how to attack the kingdom of Jarasandha because they were seriously considering this subject. Now the proposal that King Krishna go to Hastinapur for Maharaj Yudhishthira's great Rajasuya sacrifice uh, did not much appeal to them. Now Krishna could understand the intentions of his associates, and because he is the ruler of even Lord Brahma, and therefore in order to pacify him, he simply said to Uddhava, my dear Uddhava, you are always my well-wishing confidential friend. Therefore I wish to see everything through you, because I believe your counsel is always right. I believe that you can understand the whole situation perfectly now, therefore I'm asking your opinion, what should I do? I have faith in you and therefore I shall do whatever you advise. It was known to Uddhava that although Lord Krishna was acting like an ordinary man, he knew everything in the past, present and future. However, because Lord was trying to consult with him, Uddhava in order to render the service Lord began to speak. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of second volume 15th chapter of Krishna, Lord Krishna's daily activities.
Ribol, thank you so much, Prabhu, for reading this amazing chapter. Yeah, now let's go to six as the compares. The next chapter is longer. Cheto darpanamarjanam bhavamahadavagnirvapanam Shreyah Kairavachandrika Vitaranam Yavadu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivartanam Pratipadam Purnamritasvadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vichayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam.
नाम्नामकरि बहुधानि सर्वशक्तिस्तत्रार्पितानि यमितः स्मरणेन कालः एतादृशी तव कृपा भगवन् ममापि दुर्दैवमीदृशमिहार्जनिनानुरागः
Rimbo, who's gonna read this one? Okay. Trinadapi sunicena tarorapi sahishnuna amanina manadena kirtaniya sada hari.
Nadhanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitam Ba Jagati Shakamaye Mama Janmani Janmanishware Bhavatat Bhaktirahaytuki Twai.
Ainandatanuja kinkaram paditamam vishame bhavam budau kripa tava pada pankaja stita tuli satir samvichintaya.
Nainam Galada Shuddharayam Vadanam Gadgadam Ruthaya Gira Pulakair Nishitam Bapuhu Kada Tavanam Grahane Bhavishyati.
Yugaitam nimeshena chakshusha pravirshaitam sunyaitam jagat sarvam govinda virahena me.
Ashlishyava Padaratam Pinastumam Adarshanam Marmahatam Karotuva Yatha Tatha Va Vidathatu Lampato Matprana Natha Tusaiva Naparaham.
Glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious.
O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of your kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no traction for them.
One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respects to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly.
O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service birth after birth.
O son of Maharaj Nanda, Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet.
O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name?
Govinda, feeling your separation, I'm considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence.
I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipable Lord, unconditionally. Hari Bol.
Ribol, Sri Siksastakam ki jai, Harinam Sankirtan ki jai,
Jai,
Jai, Nityananda Prabhu ki jai, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki
Jai,
Jagat Guru Shila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Shila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur
Jai.
Hari Hari Bol.